Breaking overnight, the leader of Russia's nuclear protection forces killed in a bombing in Moscow. Russian officials say the bomb was hidden inside an electric scooter and detonated remotely outside an apartment building today. The Russian general was wanted by Ukraine for using chemical weapons. A source with knowledge of the operation telling CNN Ukraine's security service was behind the assassination. Max Foster joins us live now from London with more on this. Max, good morning. A remarkable event here. Tell us more about who this general is and why the Ukrainians wanted to do this.
Well, what a brazen assassination on the streets of Moscow, just 4 miles from the Kremlin, a remote-controlled bomb planted on an electric scooter. And they got their man, because very quickly we heard from sources within Ukraine that this was a revenge attack. This was a general who ran the forces that look after the nuclear weapons, the chemical weaponry, and the Ukrainians had very clearly accused him specifically of ordering the use of chemical weapons effectively on the battlefield against the Ukrainian military. So they targeted him, they got him just 4 miles from the Kremlin, as I say. So a massive breach of security for the Russians. We wait to hear their response. You know, you could call it a triumph for the Ukrainians, but there will be a response as well to this.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Max, I mean, this is an intriguing time, I suppose, for Russia, considering, of course, the fall of Assad in Syria, where, of course, Russians were, they've given him asylum there, and Putin making an appearance in public without even mentioning what was going on there, really, in many ways, an embarrassment for them and potential security problems since they have access to a warm water port through Syria. Now something like this, and to have the Ukrainians talking about it in public, it seems like Putin is under some pressure, no?
Certainly. I mean, Syria was, you know, Russia's only base, really, a reliable base within the Middle East. They've still got their military installations there. I'm sure there's some negotiation going on between the Syrian regime, as it is now, and the Russians about protecting those assets, whether or not they'll be able to stay. But losing, you know, under major pressure within Syria, in the Middle East, also clearly under pressure in Ukraine. They have been pretty successful, though, on the battlefield, pushing forward on those front lines. So they've been claiming triumphs on the battle in Ukraine. But this is a major blow, a big embarrassment, which it does show some vulnerability. To think that you could attack anyone in central Moscow as a Ukrainian agent is pretty extraordinary, let alone a top general who was specifically targeted.
Right. Well, and I mean, those electric scooters, they're all over cities around the world. I mean, what a sort of sinister use of that technology. But of course, all this, you know, coming as the Russians are scrambling to take territory in Ukraine ahead of President-elect Donald Trump coming into office, and Zelensky mounting a charm offensive to try to win him over. Quite a complicated battlefield, I suppose you could call it. Max Foster for us this morning. Max, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Let's get to CNN's Claire Sebastian now. I mean, it goes without saying that this was a brazen assassination on Russian soil. Are we hearing anything from Ukraine thus far, Claire?
Well, yeah, Emma, as Fred said, what we have is not a direct claim of responsibility from Ukraine, but it comes via a source familiar with the operation who says that this was an operation of Ukraine's security services. The source calling Lieutenant General Kirillov a war criminal, saying that he was an absolutely legitimate target and that retribution for war crimes is inevitable. I think, look, as Fred was pointing out, it is very clear why General Kirillov was targeted. He was not only wanted in Ukraine as of yesterday, the timing, of course, significant there. He'd also been sanctioned, well, Russia, in fact, had been sanctioned by the UK and the US for its use of banned chemical substances, riot agents and the like on Ukraine. And the UK had also specifically sanctioned Kirillov himself, saying that he was helping deploy these chemical substances, chemical weapons. So he was clearly viewed by Ukraine and its allies as a very destructive, dangerous force in this war. He was also, by the way, an expert at deploying disinformation. He was a key mouthpiece for some of the more out there conspiracy theories that we've heard from Russia regarding Ukraine, including this well-worn accusation that Ukraine was building a dirty bomb. This first surfaced in the autumn of 2022, and that it was going to try and pin the blame for it on Russia. He was someone who talked fairly regularly and, in fact, fairly recently about that. He also recently said that Ukraine's main priority when invading the Kursk region of Russia was to seize the nuclear power plant there, something, of course, Ukraine has denied. So that's, I think, why he was targeted. But this, in terms of ambition, given his rank, given the proximity to the center of Moscow, given the ingenuity, this was, of course, we believe, according to Russian state media reports, a bomb hidden inside a scooter. This, I think, reveals a level of ambition that we haven't yet seen from Ukraine, and certainly is not a good look for Russia's internal security apparatus.
Sure is not. Claire Sebastian, good to have you as always. Thank you very much.
A source tells CNN, a source with knowledge of an operation says Ukraine's security services were behind the assassination. Is that the view of the White House?
We're still processing all this information coming in overnight, Kate. I'm not in a position today to say definitively exactly what happened here, who was responsible. We're going to be obviously diving into it as best we can, certainly talking to the Ukrainians about what they know. But I'm not in a position here this morning to give out a whole lot more information about it.
Totally understand that. Kirillov, this man, he's been sanctioned by the UK for the way it was described, abhorrent use of inhumane chemical weapons on the battlefield in Ukraine. The Biden administration sanctioned Russia in May for chemical weapons use against Ukrainian forces. What does it mean to have this man off the battlefield, so to speak, into this ongoing war?
Well, again, I want to be careful not to speak to this particular event, but writ large, it is without question that the Russian military has committed atrocities on the Ukrainian people, that the Russian military, with orders from on high, have used chemical weapons and other agents to kill, to maim, to hurt the Ukrainian people and Ukrainian soldiers. And all of that is being documented so that Russia can be properly held to account. What we're going to be focused on here is making sure that we continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons and the material they need to succeed on the battlefield and to continue to push the Russian forces back.